Greetings. Welcome back to the program. Welcome back to Top Black TV. If you're new to the channel or the channel's new to you, please do like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to smash that notification bell so that you'll be notified whenever Top Black TV drops another video. Greatest of all time. GOAT. Champ. Muhammad Ali. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Yeah, used to call him the Black Superman. Ali wasn't just Superman in the ring. Matter of fact, Ali was more of a Superman outside of the ring. See, Ali never really interested in a boxing, you know. Sound funny? The greatest of all time. Greatest boxer known to man. Never really interested in a boxing. Boxing was a stepping stone for him, just so that people can get to know him. Ali was more interested in them people, black people, and the state of black people. Ali couldn't just reach and switch. Him ever I think about black people. Ali was the kind of fighter where him know say the man in front of him never really have a beef with that man. So him never really get the Tyson kind of anger when him a fight. Him just fight for win. Fight for look pretty. Him never want to be a barbaric fighter. Cause him know say it's barbaric people who want to sit down and watch two men smash off each other's face. So it's not hard to understand why he refused to go to war. Because I know say them people that when I go to war with, him don't even know them. So him see zero reason for go and fight them. To show you how Ali stay. When him have film man down and a beat film opponent, ease up. Him not try finish him off for the likes. Him not try crush him just because him can. Him know so what. The man have a family to him, I forgot to him family to feed him in youth. Boxing dangerous. Him know that. So we're gonna take a look at the greatest of all time. Black Superman, Muhammad Ali. This is
Top Black TV.
Asking you about it. What do you think about the other black athletes like them who in their time have had influence or would have been in a position to have influenced people, their own people and this sort of thing, about their attitude, which is certainly slightly less moderate than yours, or slightly more moderate rather than yours?
Well, they go down in history just been athletes. They don't. I'm giving more praise and credit for what I'm just doing now on this show than coming here and beating 5-year-old English champions.
Oh, at the same time?
Because right now, black people, when you show this show, are home jumping, home shouting, because they don't have the nerve to say what I'm saying, and nobody has never said it, and they're just so happy to see a black man who will stand up and jeopardize every court he's got to tell the truth. So, like Floyd Patterson and other fighters, they just don't take part. They make $1 million, they get them a Rolls Royce, they get them a nice home, they get them a white wife. Well, I made it, America's great, and the rest of them catching hell, and he won't say nothing. But when one man of popularity can let the world know the problem, he might lose a few dollars himself telling the truth, might lose his life. But he's helping millions. But if I kept my mouth shut just because I can make millions, and then this ain't doing nothing. So I just love the freedom and the flesh and blood of my people more so than I do the money. You can take it sure and play it right in Washington, let Nixon hear it. And I'll be happier. See, so I'm not ducking and running from nothing, and this boldness and telling the truth makes me just overshadow sports greatly. You couldn't get Joe Frazier no box on this show and get an interesting subject like this. Nothing to talk about. How do you feel, champ? I hate to run too I'm serious, you know, this stays on my mind every day, you know.
A certain amount of guilt about being so successful and so...
not that. Just the freedom and the plight of the people and the scuffle, you know.
Yeah.
And like this is on my mind, you know, it's just part of my life, more so than boxing in the ring. So I'm just dedicated to it, and I just can't go along with society, with the movie stars or Hollywood, you know. And I know what's happening.
Is being aggressive, and Ali is irritated and taunted.
President Nixon there. I was reading a piece that Norman Mailer wrote about you recently, where he described you as the second most prominent American, second most prominent after Nixon. We might dispute that. But would you like to be president?
No.
No?
No, sir. Too dangerous. Like, in other words, here's a ship. People are dancing on the ship. A lot of money's on the ship. A lot of food's on the ship. And I cannot integrate on the ship. I cannot have equality on the ship. I'm just in the galley working. And I never could get up and see the captain of the ship. Now, all of a sudden, the man tells me, say, come on down, Ali, out of the galley. I want you to come up here and have something to drink. What do you want? And giving me number one spot. From the galley to the number one spot. I said, this ship must be sinking. Why is he so nice to me now? What moved him to call me up here? Black men have been males now. One might be the president. America's in too much trouble. I don't want that job now.
Can I, to lighten it a little bit, away from the political thing for a while, I saw a picture of you in the paper 2 days ago, I think it was, cornered by a group of fans, mainly women, in a supermarket somewhere. Can I ask you what the problem is, if it is indeed a problem to you, about being regarded as one of the world's most attractive men and the kind of fan adulation you have from women?
I find what?
Fan worship.
From who?
Women.
I don't pay no attention to it. I don't consider myself a no attractive man. People like Tom Jones, he's in that rank, and Elvis Presley. I'm not nothing like that.
Well, whether you want it or not, you are. I mean, people for years have been saying you're one of the most attractive men in the world.
I know it. I was just. No, I don't pay attention. I've never heard that till I got to England, seriously. I've never heard this before. I've never heard this before, but I don't pay no attention. I just try to stay halfway decent looking, because boxing's a rough sport, and you get hit a lot. And right after the fights, I run right to the dressing room, run right to the mirror, and I check and make sure I'm still, you know, presentable. It's a rough sport being pounded on all the time. A lot of people's features change, mainly when I fight them. You know? You told me before the show I'm a poet, politician, comedian,
yeah.
Making it come true.
You've
right?
shown all of it, yeah, right. Also being a champion, I think that's I've often wondered about. Do you get people coming up to you wanting to take a swing at you?
Swing at me?
Yeah.
Repeat that question. What did you say? Do I do what?
You know, you hear stories of some champions who say one of the problems is that every guy thinks he can fight you, wants to take you on, and he's going to prove it someday in a bar, you know. Have you ever had that at all? Never had anybody daft enough?
Oh, if a man dreamed, if he even dreamed to be, he better wake up and apologize. Walk up and just hit me. He would stand the easier chance in Vietnam with a BB gun.
See how well the challenger rolls back from those punches? And there's Foley down. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Foley is up at 9. Talk about Foley's courage. The champion has plenty himself. There's no question about that. Foley down from that right hand. I don't know if he's going to make this one. 6, 7, 8. He's not. No, he gamely tried to get us. And Muhammad Ali
ever get frightened before a fight? Do you ever get nerves before a fight?
I'm nervous, but not frightened. I'm nervous because I have a great insight on. I just don't see the audience. Every camera, I see millions of people. Like the Frazier fight was watched by 1,000 million people, which is 5 times the population of everybody in the United States. Just a picture arena with 1 million people. I imagine you couldn't see them all. And just think about 100 million and 1,000 million. And all those people and everything, that makes me nervous. Just the idea of me just being a humble fellow from Kentucky, got lucky in sports, and now here's the fight was piped in a place like Thailand to the government house, and Arabia and the government officials took time off to watch the fight, and just for 2 men boxing, attracting so many people of all races and nationalities. In Hawaii, I understand, they stopped, closed all the factories, and the people, they set televisions on every other street corner. People came out watching the fight on the streets, and every bar in America, every house, even traffic was still during that fight. In Madison Square Garden, 10,000 people couldn't get in, and just over 1 man, and just imagine all them people watching you. That makes me nervous until I get started.
Defenseless on the rope. The referee may be deciding whether he's going to stop the fight. He is stopping the fight.
You mentioned earlier on about the fear that you have, and every fighter must have it, of getting his face messed in.
No, I don't have fear for that.
You don't fear for that?
No, I don't really fear for that because I control it. So I don't control the airplane or the pilot or what he's doing. And like when you're in a car and somebody's turning corners and you notice you kind of on the edge and you're watching, but when you're behind the wheel, it's not like that. See, so like when I'm in the ring, I'm happy.
Lands the bullet. And another round. Ali is doing damage. Flynn is taking a beating. Oh, that right hand. The overhand right. I think he nailed him. Flynn against the rope. Hanging on.
What about the other thing that could happen in boxing, the brain damage? Because as you said, I mean, Frazier was under intensive...
Yeah, we checked on him. He's all right now. They thought he might have some trouble. James Ellis was in a critical point at the end of the fight, and I pulled off of him. Most fighters are scared to say they lightened up because they call the fights fixed or they say you carried him. I tell them quick, but I got them. They can't do nothing about it because they always talk about fighters dying, how brutal it is, and they always, mainly me, being a religious man, been in a brutal game and could hurt somebody. And they say precautions should be taken. I think the best precaution, if they talk about gloves should be bigger, the fighter should wear some type of head protection or face protection. I think the best caution is if a fella's winning a fight on points, he's got a man just about out, the guy's against the ropes and about gone, and he should not just try to hurt him just to satisfy the crowd or to make money. See, Ellis has got a family. He's an ex-friend of mine, and he wants to live too. And it's really silly when you think about fighting. I look at other fighters fighting, and I say, I must be a fool. Here are 2 men like 2 roosters. You know them cockfights. They take 2 roosters and they put them out, and they put knives on them, and the roosters are fighting each other, and they're not even mad, don't know each other, and just to please somebody. And here are 2 men in the ring fighting each other, and they hitting each other, and they bleeding and they fighting. What they mad about? They're not mad about nothing. And just a bunch of agitating, bloodthirsty people saying you can whoop him, he can whoop him, my man can whoop your man. All right, y'all get in there and fight. Humans should have more sense than that. And you sitting out there dressed up, drinking your beer, and and they just fighting, and they just get. And this is serious. The nose is bleeding, the eyes cut, the teeth is out, and the brain. They might have a concussion just to please you, human beings. It's real savage. And I said, I'm not going to be that kind of fight. I'm going to dance and be pretty. I'm just going to win on points. And if I hurt my man, I'm going to let him go. I'm not going to kill him just because somebody's watching. I did it to Floyd Patterson. I did it to George Chuvalo. I did it to Carl Miltenberger. I did it to Henry Cooper when he started bleeding. I just pulled off of him deliberately, blood just pumping and gushing. And he's got a family. He's got children. And I just can't. James Ellis, I can't see myself with a man on the ropes and just to prove how bad I am. And I see I got him, his eyes in his head, he's helpless, and I'm just deliberately hitting him. I don't do that.
But didn't you, I remember one fight I saw you gave a boxer a real going on. I think it was Zora Foley.
No. One punch.
You cut him
One punch. He was a nice fella. I got him real quick. It's one right hand. I didn't cut Foley at all. That's my last fight before they took my title. Madison Square Garden, I remember it. It was in round 7. Everything was going good. Nobody was hurt. And he threw a jab. That did it. Not through 2 of them. The first one missed, but the second one hit him.
But have you never really lost your temper in the ring and really wanted to kill the guy that you're fighting?
No.
You must have, Muhammad.
No, let me tell you now. When I was a kid, I got mad enough to want to kill somebody. But when you travel the world and I'm struggling like in a freedom fight against nations, our nation, you can't get enough hate in you to be mad at one man, just because it's a boxing match or something. Never. Even Floyd Patterson, who condemned my Islamic religion, didn't want to copy Muhammad Ali, and I should have went to the army, and I should be in jail. And as bad as he was, I wasn't really mad at him, because he was brainwashed by the establishment, and I can't take it. But I gave him a whooping and a spanking because I was whipping those who backed him. Frank Sinatra told Floyd Patterson how he should whoop me. Frank Sinatra. And he had Floyd Patterson in his room. He came to Las Vegas. He was singing in a nightclub, and Floyd was his boy to whoop that old black Muslim, his good Roman Catholic boy, Floyd Patterson. And after I whooped Floyd Patterson, Frank Sinatra wouldn't talk to him. It was in a magazine. He went back to tell Frank he was sorry he didn't bring the title back to America. All that silly stuff. And Frank Sinatra turned his back and walked out on him. He put in the book how bad he felt when he let down Frank Sinatra. We want that kind of image.
You mentioned the
devil with Frank Sinatra.
Looking around for Muhammad Ali. He is trying to drop weapons. Here's a good combination. He's ready to go. He's ready to go. He's out of the street right now. There's the combination. Ali has his man in trouble. Wecker attempting to hang on. He's trying to hang on.
In the time that you have been a professional fighter, do you think you've changed heavyweight boxing for the better?
Well, during my time, in my era, I can say it's been changed. More interest. Like, when my title was taken, boxing died. Joe Frazier fought his last fight with Bobby Foster, Detroit, Michigan. They drew about 4,500 people. Place held about 11,000. I do more than that in training. 4,000. We had 11,000 at the supermarket the other day in Birmingham. And Manchester had 15,000. Just talking and signing autographs. But like now that I'm back, it's alive again. Cause what did I do? When they gave me my title back, I could have waited for Joe Frazier, but I didn't. I fought Jerry Quarry, gave him a chance. After Jerry Quarry, a few weeks later, I fought the rough Oscar Bonavena, a man who almost whooped Joe Frazier. Then I was right on Joe Frazier. I livened the game right up. Right after Frazier, he's somewhere still resting. I done fought James Ellis. Now I done signed to fight Buster Mathis next month. So in 1971, I done had just about 5 fights. And I got 3 more planned after Buster Mathis. So from the time I fought Frazier the first time and second time, I would have had 5 fights. The way Frazier's going, he wouldn't even have 1. See, I'll keep it alive. Patterson had the title. He fought Ingemar Johansson 3 times. Took him 3 years to settle their argument. Then Sonny Liston and Floyd Patterson took 3 years. Other contenders have to set up and just wait.
1:30 left in the fight. Oh, that left! Floyd him! It came from nowhere. Ali came through with a left. The crowd screaming. The first knockdown of the fight. He took the mandatory 8. And now Ali is behaving like the old Ali. One more knockdown in this round.
What plans do you have for the future now, apart from fighting?
Well, just, I'll tell you something. I don't think I've ever said this before, but I'll tell you. I really care nothing about boxing. Boxing is a stepping stone just to introduce me to the audience. Like if I was still in Louisville, Kentucky, and never was a boxer, I might get killed next week in some type of freedom struggle, and you never read the news. But now, if I'm even say the wrong thing, it makes news. So like, boxing is just to introduce me to the struggle. Like when I speak, I draw people, in the States to draw my people, to teach them various things, which will give them dignity, pride, and self-help, and go for self, help the ghetto, and help the dope, prostitution problem, the juveniles, and I use my image to help or do all I can to stop a lot of trouble among our own people fighting and killing each other. So boxing is just going to be another year, but my main fight is for freedom and equality, and this is what I plan to do in boxing. It's good for livelihood, but mainly money don't really mean nothing, because I proved that when I gave up the title, not knowing if I'm coming back or not for 4 years, and they let me back on my terms. I didn't deny nothing, I believe. It's still the same everything. So if even today, if my title hadn't been given back to me, if I got such in poverty where I had to go find a job, I would have did that. But I made a good living speaking in colleges, because the war got unpopular, and so many black militants were trying to do all they could, and I was naturally right in the middle of all of it and represented it, and that kept me alive. But if I couldn't fight, I would still not be fighting. So number one comes freedom first for my people, equality, and this is what I plan to do after I'm through fighting, working with nothing but the people, the little people in the alleys, the wine heads, the downtrodden people, going out among them and helping them with my enemy.
Ali moving in on London. London goes down. The referee sends Ali to a neutral corner.
How do you find that the people's attitude in America changed towards you? Those that criticised you at the time when you refused to go in the army, afterwards, 2.5 years when Vietnam became an unpopular war, do you find their attitude had changed towards you?
They're
You
on
became
my
a hero.
side only for reasons of war, not religion,
No.
not for my people's freedom.
No.
I was involved in something that they didn't like, and I was involved in something that they later agreed with me on just that subject. But the same people that are with me for not going to Vietnam because that saves them and their children, the same people will give me hell if I turn around and say, now listen to free my people now.
Yeah. Well,
So they're with me only on that part of my belief is
Yes.
the war. That's all, not for my freedom.
Yes.
The body and Mike follow.
Goes like this. People say, what's going to happen? You meet Joe Frazier again. Here's how the fight's going to sound over the radio for those who can't afford to buy the expensive theater seats. And the fight goes like this. Ding, Ali comes out to meet Frazier, but Frazier starts to retreat. If Frazier goes back an inch farther, he'll wind up in the ringside seat. Ali swings to the left, Ali swings to the right. Look at the kid carry the fight. Frazier keeps backing, but there's not enough room. It's a matter of time. There Ali lowers the boom. Now Ali lands to the right. What a beautiful swing. And the punch lifts Frazier clean out of the ring. Frazier's still rising, but the referee wears a frown, for he can't start counting until Frazier comes down. Now Frazier disappears from view. The crowd is getting frantic, but our radar stations have picked him up. He's somewhere over the Atlantic. Who would have thought when they came to the fight that they would have witnessed the launching of a colored satellite?
Very easy fight. Ali and sneaky right.
What do you do these days now? It seems I've sometimes wondered what you're doing.
You know, it's really strange. I'm actually more busy now than I was boxing, because at the time I was boxing, I had to go in training for like 3 months before a fight. Yeah. And like immediately after a fight, I was signing for another one, and I was like on the streets for like 3 weeks, and then I was back in training. And I fought as much as 3 and 4 times a year, and training 3 months for each fight. I was mostly in camp. Mm-hmm. But I'm more busy now than I was, more active in the ring. For an example, I was in Pittsburgh yesterday and toured about 3 black high schools in one day, encouraging the youth. A lot of gang wars are going on. They're shooting each other and sniping at each other on the streets. And the principals mentioned that with the things that I have done and sacrifices I have made, I'm about one of the few people that they might listen to. So I went, and they did listen, and a couple of the gangs got together, and we had a little secret meeting, and they shook each other's hand and said they're going to try to stop fighting and shooting. A lot of them are taking dope, and a lot of the girls are going into prostitution. And we went to the schools, we talked with the various groups, and we had a good time. And I'm on a college tour also, and my agent, Richard Fulton here in New York, says that look like we're going to be booked for another 2 years in the colleges. And I'm also franchising about 500 restaurants called Champ Burgers. We have 5 of them in the Miami area.
Champ Burgers?
Champ Burgers, right. And we're negotiating on about 10 more buildings in Georgia, and we're coming up here and all over the country. And also, Random House will be coming out soon with my life autobiography, about 4 more months. So I'll stay pretty busy. Concerning the Attica prisoner killing the other day, when this actually didn't happen, but it explains how the black brothers felt who died that day out there in that prison. The warden Rockefeller sent word, shoot to kill if they don't give up in 5 minutes. And the white wardens who had all the guns trained on the black men said, if you don't surrender, if you don't come out now, we will kill all of you. You got 5 minutes. Then what's your reply? And a black man came out and he said, better far from all we see, to die fighting to be free. What more fitting end could be? Better surely than in bed, where in broken health we're led, lingering until we're dead. Better than with prayers and pleas, or in the clutch of some disease, wasting slowly by degrees. Better than of heart attack, or some dose of drug we lack. Let us die by being black. Better far that we should go, standing here against the foe. Is there sweeter death to know? Better than the bloody stain on some highway where we are lame, torn by flying glass and pain. Better call in death to come than to die another dumb, muted black man in the slum. Better than of this prison rot, if there's any choice we have got, kill us today on the spot. Better far our fight to wage, now while our blood boils with rage, lest it cool with ancient age. Better violent for us to die than to give up in Uncle Tom and try, making peace just to live a lie. Better if we say our sooth, we gonna die today demanding truth, while we're still akin to youth. Better now than later on, now that fear of death is gone. Never mind another darn. You know what happened after that? They killed them. But they died right there for freedom.
How do you stand now with the possibility of going to jail?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just waiting any day now.
Do you think about? Do you think about that though? Do you ever think what you'll do if you?
Well, yes,
go?
you think about it at nights when you're in the bed. You think about, if I went this way, what could have happened if I went this way, and I've figured it all out.
Yeah.
No people gain freedom until some have to die, some lose their wealth, some give up money, and like I would say, the white race, when your people first got here, they didn't have these cameras and televisions and jet airplanes and air conditions and Howard Johnsons and Holiday Inns and Americana and Hilton hotels. They had to fight the Indians, watch their daughters raped and scabbed. Took 6 months to go from here to Los Angeles. Now you can do it in 3.5 hours, but nevertheless, they kept fighting and cutting down the trees, and they didn't see this, but they made a way for the present whites to rule. And the Japanese in World War II, they had these flights called suicide missions. They knew they would die, but they ran that plane, right? His life meant nothing when it came to the freedom of his daughter, his son, the future of his nation. And I would say, like the astronauts, 3 white astronauts almost got stranded in space, and their wives are waiting, and the children were worried because they could have been out there now, still in orbit.
Yeah.
But for the progress of white America in space, 8 astronauts died on the ground, and 3 almost not got back. But whenever people want to really make progress, some have to sacrifice a lot. And I like to say, white America right now is spending $30 million a day in Asia. Black and white boys are dying unjustly for nothing just to free somebody else. So why should I worry about going to little old jail to free my poor people who's been catching hell here for 400 years? And it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to put a
Are you asking me for an answer to that?
It's
or?
kind of hard to put a black man, any black person in this country in jail, because if you ask the average one, we're already in jail. We've been in jail 400 years.
Do you feel bitter toward the entire white race? Do you think there's something about whiteness that is evil?
No, sir. No, sir. Whatever white people do as far as evil or as far as mistreatment, it's just the nature of the white race to be this way. If we check history,
Do you think it
there's
might be
always
human
been-
nature?
Yes, just human nature to kill. If white people,
human nature, not
I watch
just white
television. If there's not a movie of white people shooting white people in shootouts and cowboy pictures, they're shooting Indians. If they're not shooting Indians, they shoot Negroes. If they're not doing that, they're shooting reindeers or elephants or killing something. Just got to shoot. The system is built on war.
Now, let me ask you this. Do you think if it had happened the other way around, for some reason in what's the word, evolution, if the genes and the pigments had happened to work some other way, if the nation of Africa, if the continent of Africa had developed the kind of civilization that ours has,
what did I just say? Him said, them bring civilization to we? Away did. During the formation of Europe's first civilization in Greece, it was the black Africans from the Nile Valley who civilized the Greeks. Later, as Greece handed over the acquired culture to the Romans, who almost lost it, initiating the Dark Ages. The Moors came onto the scene and helped restore civilization. In 711 AD, after the collapse of the Roman Empire, the warring tribes from the Caucasus were pushed to Western Europe, while the Moors invaded Spanish shores, bringing culture to these barbaric tribes. On to them. The African Muslims ruled over Spain, Portugal, southern France, and North Africa for over 700 years. Yo, while the monarchs of France, Germany, and England dwelled in barns with no ventilation system and were convinced that their subjects shouldn't indulge in cleanliness, as it amounted to sinning, Muslim Spain was always ahead, building 600 baths. Them checks it a sin for bed. And we surround the world afresh. Chat about. Come to them. Listen. Education. According to the Center of Research in Globalization, in Christian Europe, nearly 99% of the population was illiterate. Even a majority of the monarchs themselves couldn't read. Alright. Fully done. While education was universal in Muslim Spain. At a time when Europe had a meager 2 universities, Spain boasted 17. On to them.
I know this is part of the Muslim point, I assume, the black Muslim point, that there's something intrinsically
I'm just talking about history.
aggressive about white nature that there isn't about black.
No religious point. What I'm telling you is in history books, in your own books about this. I have a book called 100 Years
sure,
of
I know
Lynching.
there's.
So I'm not bringing up religion or nothing. This is just a fact that the world knows, you know. But I would say that just the nature, from what I see of darker people, is peace. I say like the Japanese seemed to be a peaceful people until somebody else came over dictating and trying to rule them. The Hawaiians, they'd be on the beach doing their little dance. The Indian was building his whatever teepee or whatever you call it. The African was somewhere doing his little dance. These people have never tried to go to other planets or enslave other people or take over countries.
Actually, that isn't true. If you took, for example, no, let me just, I don't want to get in an argument with you, but Tahiti, for example, is always used as an example of the paradise that the white man came and destroyed. But if you look into the history of when, I'm an expert because I just read a book about it, Captain Cook, but that supposedly peaceful paradise where people did nothing but pluck breadfruit off the trees and make love and had no disease until the white man got there, actually had a number of unpleasant aspects to it, like the fact that they strangled infants at birth to keep the population down, that there were live human sacrifices. So I know that there have been outrageous injustices against the black people in this country, but it doesn't really get us very far to talk about
Stop talking about it.
Something as if the white man were some sort of intrinsic devil that no
That's
other
the
race
truth.
is.
You are right. What you said was the truth. The thing that you all have done to us is worse than the devil you told us about under the ground.
Stop talking about it.
How would you like it if I were to lead into a commercial now?
In the neighborhoods, we clean their own neighborhoods. And another thing, when you say integration, it comes under intermarriage too, right? All
Right.
been together.
Right, sure.
And I'm sure no intelligent white person watching this show, or no intelligent white man in his or her right white mind want black boys and black girls marrying their white sons and daughters, and in return introducing their grandchildren as half-brown, kinky-haired black people.
I wouldn't object to that.
Well, you wouldn't, but a lot of them would.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people.
And
No, this is the point.
What I'm trying to say is this. And you don't have it. You say you don't, but you don't have it. You really ain't gonna have it. You on the show, and you got to say that. But
that's not true.
why would you want to do that?
Because
Don't you
I
love
don't
yourself?
think I'm any different from you. You see.
Yeah, we much different.
I mean,
Let's
I
face
think
it,
society's
man.
made us
You know
different.
we're different. We all together.
But society's made us different.
No, not society. God made us different.
No, we're just human beings. He made all of us.
We all, listen, bluebirds fly with bluebirds, red birds want to be with red birds. Listen, tell me when I'm wrong. Pigeons want to be with pigeons.
But
tell
we
me
have
when I'm wrong.
intelligence.
Well,
We have an
we
intellect
must,
that they
well, we
don't
should have,
have.
right, they don't have intelligence, but yet
No.
they stay together. We should have more intelligence than them, right? Buzzards are with buzzards. Right? Buzzards are with buzzards. Bluebirds with bluebirds. They all are birds, but they got different cultures. The eagles like to hang out in the mountains. The buzzard like to fly around the desert.
Well,
the bluebird like to fly around the trees and the
There'd be certain
grass.
problems, a buzzard mating with a sparrow, wouldn't there?
What?
There'd be certain...
Right. And that's, we have the problems too.
No,
I don't see no black and white couples in England or America walking around proud holding their children.
That's because society...
And going out.
That's society's fault. I mean, we've got to educate people around it.
Well, life is too short for me to be raised catching hell for something like that. I'd rather go and be my own. I have a beautiful daughter, beautiful wife. They look like me. We're all happy, and I don't have no trouble. I ain't got no trouble. I ain't that much in love with no woman to go through all that hell. Ain't no one woman that good. You understand?
I understand, yeah. I do understand. I understand. But I think it's sad that
it ain't sad because I want my child to look like me. Every intelligent person wants his child to look like him. I'm sad because I want to blot out my race and lose my beautiful identity. Chinese love Chinese. They love the little slanted-eyed, pretty brown-skinned babies. Pakistanis love their culture. Jewish people love their culture. A lot of Catholics don't want to marry a number of Catholics. They want the religion to stay the same. Who want to spot up yourself and kill your race? You a hater of your people if you don't want to stay who you are. You shame what God made you. God didn't make no mistake when he made us all like we were.
I think that's a philosophy of despair.
Despair.
I really do.
It ain't no despair.
Number
one, can't no woman. Let me tell you something. I want to tell you. Listen, no woman on this whole earth, not even a black woman in Muslim countries, can please me and cook for me and socialize and talk to me like my American black woman. No woman, and last is a white woman, can really identify with me and my feelings and the way I act and the way I talk. And you can't take no Chinese man and give him no Puerto Rican woman and holler about we're in love and you emotionally in love and physically, but really they're not happy because she's gonna hear some Puerto Rican music, he's gonna hear some Chinese music, and they're gonna be clashing all the time. It's just nature. You can do what you want, but it's nature to want to be with your own. I want to be with my own. I love my people. That's all I know.
Larry, I'd like you to explain why you've been crying.
You know, so I really respect a whole lot, really respect Ali a whole lot.
It hurt you to punish him that way, didn't it?
I feel that he fought one of the baddest heavyweights in the world today, and you cannot take credit from him.
Obviously, the things that you're going through now, would you like to comment on that?
Well, I have what they call Parkinson's syndrome. Causes a tremor in your hands and affects the speech. So all that old talk when I'm debating, I have to slow down.
It seems to bug other people more than it does you. When I sit and talk to you, you seem to be fine with the speech and everything.
Slow down. Don't bother me. I hope he gets better.
Well, Bramley,
I'm just going to show you a picture. You can.
Other people are just so happy to be home, you know.
Yeah. Whereas you can take it or leave it?
Well, I mean, you know, I don't, so many problems in the world and with the people and the black people and the white people in the whole world, and people dying and getting shot, and me being one of the few of my kind, being blessed to come on the shows or to get the privilege to make a little money, I just feel so guilty laughing and joking like everything is so rosy while people are hungry and can't find work and out of work and getting put out of apartments, and me up here showing my TV and kiki, you know.
Ali would have some of the most poignant feelings that of black rage that we'd have, but it was couched in a way that it was in people's living room. But at the same time, you could tell that they had some kind of bond and relationship, that they kind of understood each other. But it was significant because of who Cavett was and who Ali was.
I'll tell you something. I don't think I've ever said this before, but I'll tell you. I really care nothing about boxing. Boxing is a stepping stone just to introduce me to the audience.
you made a young man believe that he could do anything. So that's why you're very special to me.
It's hard to believe. All the years, everything that's passed between us. It's so hard to believe. It's so memorable. And now, it's time to say to you, Muhammad, God bless you. You are exactly who you said you are. You never wavered. You are free to be who you want to be. I love you.
Already.
Boy,
Hard to believe,
time
huh?
flies when you're in good company, don't it?